There is a strip of land west of London, stretching from the village of Sipson through the suburb of Harmondsworth, that has been scheduled for demolition for longer than most of the people who live there have been alive. For 40 years, British governments have announced, approved, cancelled, reapproved, and re-cancelled a third runway at Heathrow Airport. Boris Johnson promised to lie down in front of the bulldozers. Zach Goldsmith resigned his seat over it. Courts struck it down on climate grounds. Then COVID arrived and the whole conversation went silent. In January 2025, the Labour government formally backed it again. In autumn 2026, Parliament will vote on the policy framework that either puts this on a clear path to construction or starts the next chapter of the 40-year argument. But the political fight, which has consumed British aviation policy for a generation, is no longer the most dangerous obstacle. The airlines that would use the runway are warning that if Heathrow builds it the way Heathrow wants to build it, the runway will be too expensive to fly from. A £49 billion project at the world's most expensive airport. The runway might get approved? Whether any carrier can afford to use it is an entirely different question. Heathrow operates 2 runways. It is the busiest 2-runway airport on Earth, handling approximately 80 million passengers annually on infrastructure not designed for this volume. The runway utilization figure is essentially 100%. Every available slot is filled. A single pair of Heathrow slots, the right to land and take off once a day, has traded on the secondary market for over £20 million. The consequence is strategic. Frankfurt has 4 runways. Paris Charles de Gaulle has 4. Amsterdam Schiphol has 6. Dubai has 4, with a 5th planned. Every one of those airports can accommodate new routes and new carriers that Heathrow physically cannot. The routes that do not fit at Heathrow do not sit unused. They open at Amsterdam or Frankfurt or Paris. The connecting traffic those routes generate transfers through a hub that is not British. The government's position, stated by Chancellor Rachel Reeves in January 2025, is that a third runway would unlock further growth, boost investment, increase exports, and make the UK more open and more connected. The economic case is real. The question is whether the economics of building it work. The runway was first seriously proposed in the 1980s. The Airports Commission recommended it in 2015. Parliament voted to approve it in June 2018. 315 votes to 75, a decisive majority. The then Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson was abroad during the vote, having publicly promised to lie down in front of the bulldozers if the runway was approved. He did not lie down. Zach Goldsmith, the Conservative MP for Richmond Park who had pledged to resign if the runway was approved, resigned. He stood in a by-election as an independent. He lost his seat, was later given a peerage, and the runway debate continued without him. In February 2020, the Court of Appeal ruled the government's policy framework was unlawful because it failed to account for climate obligations under the Paris Agreement. In December 2020, the Supreme Court overturned that ruling. The runway was back. Then COVID arrived. 80 million passengers became 26 million. The conversation about building a new runway for a market that had collapsed was quietly shelved. The recovery came. Traffic returned. The slot crunch returned. And in January 2025, the Labour government said it again. We support a third runway. Heathrow's proposal carries a headline cost of £49 billion, covering the new runway, major terminal upgrades, a diversion of the M25 motorway beneath the planned runway footprint, and associated infrastructure. The airport says the project will be privately financed. The mechanism, Heathrow raises capital, builds the runway, and recoups the investment through charges on airlines for every passenger passing through. The airlines are not reassured. When Heathrow published its £49 billion proposal in August 2025, IAG Chief Executive Luis Gallego responded directly and publicly. He told The Guardian, "The investment is going to be huge, and with the current regulatory model, it is going to be very expensive for customers. If we build a new runway and don't change the model, passengers are going to pay double. We risk a new runway that is going to be empty." British Airways CEO Sean Doyle added, "If growth is at any price, it's not going to happen." The credibility concern is not abstract. Heathrow's track record on cost control is poor. The Times recently reported that upgrading a single service tunnel was budgeted at £21 million and came in at £342 million. A cargo tunnel budgeted at $45 million came in at $213 million. The coalition opposing Heathrow's approach, British Airways parent IAG, Virgin Atlantic, American Airlines, and others under the Heathrow Reimagined banner, is not arguing the runway should not be built. It is arguing that the regulatory model that allows Heathrow to charge whatever it costs needs fundamental reform before a single shovel enters the ground. Do you think Britain should build the third runway? Or has the moment already passed? Drop it in the comments. The reason this iteration of the Heathrow debate is different is not political will. Every government since Tony Blair has said it supports expansion at some point. The difference is the timetable. In spring 2026, the Civil Aviation Authority published a draft decision allowing Heathrow to recover £320 million in planning and design costs from airlines through higher passenger charges. Over summer, the Department for Transport will publish the revised draft Airports National Policy Statement, the document that sets the legal and policy framework for the runway. In autumn, Parliament votes on the final ANPS, not an advisory vote. A vote that either designates the framework as government policy, putting the runway on a clear legal path to planning permission by 2029 and first flights in approximately 2035, or rejects it and restarts the clock. The third runway debate has consumed more political energy, more column inches, more legal fees, and more parliamentary time than any infrastructure project in recent British history, and produced for 40 years exactly 2 runways. The case for building it is real, and has been real for decades. The routes Heathrow cannot accommodate open elsewhere. The connecting traffic transfers through Amsterdam and Frankfurt. The economic activity that should flow through a British hub flows through Dutch and German ones instead. The case against has also been real. The communities beneath the flight paths have waited under the threat of demolition for longer than most of them can remember. The climate obligations the UK has signed are legally binding, and the cost of the project, £49 billion at current estimates, with a track record suggesting the final number will be higher, will ultimately be paid by passengers. What is new in 2026 is not the arguments. They are all the same arguments made since the 1980s. What is new is that the institutional machinery is, for the first time since 2018, actually moving. Whether the third runway gets built will be determined not by the autumn parliamentary vote, which Labour's majority makes likely to pass, but by what happens between approval and construction. By whether the regulatory reform constrains Heathrow's costs. By whether the legal challenges that will inevitably follow the ANPS vote succeed in the courts. By whether the climate commitments that killed the last attempt can be squared with substantially more flights over London. The 40-year argument is entering what everyone involved is calling its final chapter. It has been called that before. The difference this time is that Parliament's calendar says autumn 2026, and British aviation is running out of years to wait.